Namaskar. A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to the weekly edition of the Friday Dialogue. The Friday Dialogue is a forum for learning outside the classroom, as we know, and we have been meeting every Friday for this dialogue. Yet it is customary to introduce the Friday Dialogue, and we are doing that. So, to introduce Friday Dialogue, it is an initiative outlined and envisioned by the Director General, Indian Institute of Mass Communication, Professor Sanjay Dwivedi. It is a platform where students get a chance to know more about the issues and topics which are not covered in the syllabus. However, are observed to be very important to enhance the journalistic abilities of the students. This program has been started in 2021 and has been continued thereafter. The topic for this week's dialogue is Chhatrapati Shivaji and his good governance. We have with us Sri Uday Mahurkarji, Information Commissioner, Government of India. A very warm welcome to you, sir. We look forward to know more about the strategic and communication aspects in relation to...
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
And his governance.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Yes. I welcome you, sir. In this discussion, we have with us DG IMC faculty members, senior professors, regional directors, students who have joined the session online through their classrooms from all the regional centers located at Dhenkanal, Kottayam, Jammu, Aizawl, along with Delhi. When we talk about the personality like Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, we know he is a popular name in Indian history and culture, as we know him for his courage, valor, intelligence, and cleverness through the childhood stories and also through the history books. Nevertheless, we know very little when it comes to his governance, his statecraft, his strategic relations, the untouched aspects of his good governance, self-sufficiency, the welfare of the common man, irrespective of caste, creed, and religion. So this is more relevant today. We know that Chhatrapati Shivaji has been an eminent figure in our history, but when it comes to contemporary time, the name becomes more relevant because when we talk about, and especially when we are observing Azadi Ka Amrit Kal, and we talk about sustainable development, self-reliance, so there is a lot to know more about and to learn more from the great Maratha ruler. So, as we would be celebrating the 392nd birth anniversary of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj on 19th of February 2023, let us understand him a bit more with the administrative perspective. I would request now Professor Dr. Sangeeta Pranavendra, Course Director, English Journalism, IIMC, to formally welcome our guest.
Thank you, Dr. Rachna. A very good afternoon to everyone. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce Shri Uday Mahurkarji. After 33 years of eventful tenure with India Today magazine, senior journalist and deputy editor, Shri Uday Mahurkar was appointed as Information Commissioner of India by His Excellency, the President, Shri Ramnath Kovind, on the recommendation of Narendra Modi government. The recommendation was made after a committee, including Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, finalized the name. Shri Mahurkar brought to his new position wide experience in public field as a journalist over the past 3 decades, where he had covered all major areas of journalism, and it turned out to be an asset to him in his new constitutional position of a semi-quasi judicial nature, which deals with the implementation of the Right to Information Act. He made nationwide headlines in 2014 when his first book on Prime Minister Modi's 13-year tenure as Gujarat Chief Minister center stage inside the Narendra Modi model of governance was released by the India Today Group chairman Shri Arun Puri in Delhi. It had a foreword by eminent economist Shri Jagdish Bhagwati. Senior journalist Swapan Das Gupta termed it a read into PM Modi's mind in governance. Among others who praised the work was spiritual leader Sri Ravi Shankar of the Art of Living movement, eminent economist Bibek Devroy, and His Highness Gat Singh Ji of Jodhpur. His second book, titled Marching with a Billion on PM Modi's 3 years as PM, came in 2017 when it was released in Rashtrapati Bhavan by Lok Sabha Speaker and late Union Minister of Finance Sri Arun Jaitley in the presence of the then President Sri Pranab Mukherjee and Vice President Hamid Ansari. The book has a foreword by Professor Klaus Schwab, founder of the World Economic Forum and organizer of the annual Davos Business Meet in Switzerland. The book was endorsed by former French President Francois Hollande, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina of Bangladesh, and Infosys founder N.R. Narayan Murthy, among others. A very warm welcome to you, Shri Mahurkarji. It's now over to you.
Thank you so much.
I'm very happy to.
Yes, sir. Please.
I'm very happy to on getting this opportunity to share my views on Chhatrapati Shivaji. And incidentally, I am planning a book also on him, which will be tentatively titled Emperor Shivaji. Was he the greatest ruler of 1,000 years? This will be a rare book. And let us start with what place Shivaji has in Indian history. Then we'll come to his good governance. You see, Jadunath Sarkar, the great historian, had subjected Shivaji to critical evaluation also in his works. And his times, there are other books also by him on Shivaji. Now he says that after evaluating his contribution, after considering the contribution of many other people in the medieval period, he says that Shivaji was the greatest constructive genius of medieval India. Greatest constructive genius of medieval India, and further on he says that kings come and go, empires break, but the legacy of a great ruler like Shivaji is an imperishable memory for the entire human race. These are this is lavish praise. But the historiography we have seen in this country over the last 70 years, particularly in the first 60 years, was such that we could not evaluate our great man properly. Rather, there was an attempt to downplay their contribution. One of them is Chhatrapati Shivaji also. So now let us look at where does Shivaji stand today. You see, my book, as I told you, says that Shivaji, Emperor Shivaji, was he the greatest ruler of 1000 years? Now, when you say call a king an emperor, then there are 3-4 prerequisites which have to be there for a historian to regard a ruler as an emperor. First is the extent of his territory. If the territory is small and the contribution is great, still that ruler doesn't qualify to be called an emperor. So first is territory. Second is what imprint he has left on the future generations. Third, his work of good governance. Correct? And fourth, how he has been seen by world historians. By world historians, I mean people outside India. So these are 4 or 5 prerequisites which help us in defining whether a ruler should be called a king or an emperor. Now let us start with Shivaji's territory. Shivaji has been sold as a king to us. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is a king, as we read our history today. I feel that he was an emperor when he left the world. Let us look at the extent of his territory. When he died in 1680, the length of his kingdom was 1600 kilometers. It started from South Gujarat, passed through Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and ended beyond Chennai, 200 kilometers beyond Chennai. Now this length is about 1600. If you drive today, take up a car, then it will take you, you'll have to travel 1600 kilometers to reach the last point of Shivaji's territory, which he left behind when he died in 1680. Now, you see, our historians have lionized foreign invaders, calling them very enterprising. In Hindi, we call it bahut purusharthi the. That is what they say. Our historians, the historians of the leftist bent, Now, let us look at the distance between Kabul and Delhi. Kabul is the place from where and from around where most of the invaders came to India and invaded India. Correct? Now the distance of Kabul to Delhi, today if you drive, is 1350 kilometers. It is less than the length of Shivaji's kingdom. Mind you, Ghur, from where Muhammad Ghori came and enslaved India, started Islamic conquest, Islamic rule in this country. Ghur from Delhi, if you drive down today, is 1525 kilometers. It is less than the length of Shivaji's kingdom. So the first mistake is that we have not been able to evaluate Shivaji properly, because Shivaji was an emperor when he died. He was not a king. Let's compare it with Krishnadev Rai. Krishnadev Rai's kingdom, Vijayanagar Empire, which at the time of Krishnadev Rai, it was at its height. The north to south length of Krishnadev Rai's empire was not 600-700 kilometers. The width was more, of course. But even count the entire territory of Vijayanagar under Krishnadev Rai, it was as much as Shivaji or maybe lesser in terms of area. So we have faltered in seeing Shivaji properly from point one. Another is, what imprint did he leave on this nation? Now, within 40 years of Shivaji's death, Maratha armies reached Delhi in 1700 under the leadership of Balaji Vishwanath. In another 30 years, in 1750, Marathas became the arbitrators of Mughal emperor. The Mughal emperor was controlled by them. In 1758, which is within 78 within 78 years of Shivaji's departure, Maratha armies reached Peshawar. They captured Peshawar. The distance from Pune to Peshawar is 2,300 kilometers. It is slightly less than the distance between Tehran, the capital of Iran, and Delhi as of today. So you can imagine the kind of imprint he left. Secondly, his example inspired the greatest of warriors of medieval era, Bajirao Peshwa, Mahatji Scindia, Dhanaji Jadhav, Santaji Ghorpade. Santaji Ghorpade, nobody knows him in the north. Santaji Ghorpade was entirely inspired by Chhatrapati Shivaji's example. He was the person who fought Aurangzeb for almost 7 years in Maharashtra after Chhatrapati Shivaji's death, which is Shivaji's son's death, who was killed cruelly by the Mughal emperor when he refused to convert to Islam. After that, there was no leadership, but leaders emerged under the inspiration of Shivaji. And Santaji Ghorpade, let me point out, Santaji Ghorpade was one who instilled fear in the heart of Aurangzeb himself. And twice it happened that once he came close to killing Aurangzeb, and in the second instance, he came close to capturing Aurangzeb alive. Nobody knows in the north. So, Shivaji, if you look at his example, I would say the modern Indian state has owed much from Shivaji. Let us take the Hindu-Muslim problem this country is facing. Shivaji was very clear. He has to fight radical Muslims and he has to keep moderate Muslims with him. Therefore, in his state, people of all religions had the freedom to practice their religion. They did not face any kind of pressure on account of their religion. In spite of the fact that he was fighting the Muslims, for that matter. But when the Muslims came under his kingdom, they found themselves to be very safe. So, when you talk about good governance of Chhatrapati Shivaji, it has many things to offer to this country, and I think this nation has owed many things from Shivaji's good governance. Now, let us take up his revenue system. The way is to tax the farmers. Now, he implemented a reform which even the modern Indian state today has not been able to implement. He divided his kingdom into various parts, and then the farmers had to pay taxes according to the rainfall in that zone. If the rainfall was less in the zone, he divided his kingdom into various zones. In every zone, the rainfall used to be measured. If the rainfall was less, then the farmer had to pay less tax. And if the rainfall was adequate, then he has to pay full tax. And if he had suffered because of floods, even in that case, he had to face less. He had to pay less tax. Now, this kind of reform, even the modern state has not been able to implement. Secondly, he used to give seed loans. We have a system of seed loans today. When a farmer doesn't have much money, but if he is helped, then he can produce crop, So, like today, he started a system of giving seed loans and also loans for cattle. So, this was the level of his good governance. But the biggest thing which he did was, he found that the Jagirdars, the landlords, were the main cause of exploitation of the farmers. Therefore, when he became strong as a ruler, he started the practice of not giving lands to jagirdars, to landowners, to his senapatis, to his officers. They used to be paid in cash as we pay today. Otherwise, the system across the country was that to give a piece of land to an officer and he might collect revenue from that, which is his salary for that matter. Here, Shivaji ended that system. He barred the landowners from building new forts. In many cases, he demolished their forts because they were a menace to the local population, to the local farmers. So this is the vision he had. So when you see today, say, let us take the biggest achievement of the present government at the center. I think biggest achievement is its serious attempt to sweep aside the middleman. What is DBT, direct benefit transfer? It is an experiment in sweeping aside the middleman, so that he doesn't take the money from the money which is due to the people. That person might be a contractor, he might be a beneficiary of a government scheme. Earlier, they had to grease the palms of officers. Then and then they used to get that money in cash or check. Now, by making it online payment, that whole menace stands tackled to a very great extent, I would say. So Shivaji did the same thing. He swept aside the middleman. The middlemen of those times were the landlords who used to fleece, in many cases, fleece the farmers and the local population. Take the composition of his army. I think he was one of the first rulers who allowed every caste to enter his army. So his idea was to instill fighting qualities in every individual, irrespective of his caste. So if you see the composition of his army, there were Mahars, Dalits, which is the caste of Babasaheb Ambedkar, who used to fight. There were Nais, there were Dhangar, what you call Gadaria in the north, the shepherd people. They used to fight. So his army had people from all castes. There used to be a caste called, I forget the name, called Ramushi. I don't know the equivalent of that caste in North India. It's a very poor caste. They used to be hired as spies. The spy system was controlled by Ramushis and to some extent by Mahars. And additionally, Mahars used to fight also. Secondly, in his army, a person handling any department had to be a fighter per se. It was not like that somebody is handling accounts, then he did not fight. He had to fight for the nation. So there was a great national security angle which he gave, which is, I think, has no parallel. And see the social effect of that. Babasaheb Ambedkar, I personally believe, and this is going to be part of my new book, the reforms introduced by Shivaji in terms of his military composition are indirectly responsible for the rise of even Babasaheb Ambedkar. How? Somebody might find it very laughable, but I can prove it. You see, it was Shivaji who turned the Mahar Dalit community into fighters. When the Britishers came, they found Mahars to be very, very loyal and honest and brave. Therefore, they formed a regiment called Mahar Regiment, which is so famous today in our army. And Babasaheb Ambedkar's father, Ramji Ambedkar, he was a soldier in the Mahar Regiment. I very strongly believe that had Babasaheb's father not been in the army, we would not have got Babasaheb Ambedkar. The reason is that those fighting qualities which he exhibited against injustice, he could exhibit because he had imbibed that fighting quality from his own father, who was a soldier. So see the impact of Shivaji's reforms. It is you can't imagine. The more you go deeper into it, the more you come with new examples of how he has influenced even today's India, So let us take his reforms in terms of, you see, everybody knows that in Hinduism, when somebody converts, the doors for his re-entry are banned. This has been the practice of Hinduism. A person who is converted to Islam, a person who is converted to Christianity, he cannot come back. This has been, now there have been reforms of late after the arrival of Arya Samaj. Otherwise, this was the practice. Shivaji in those days set an example which has no parallel. The ruler of Fulton, Nimbalkar, had converted to Islam under the influence of Bijapur state. Chhatrapati Shivaji did not just reconvert him back to Hinduism. He gave his daughter in marriage to his son Bajaji Rao. Shivaji's eldest son-in-law was Bajaji Nimbalkar, whose father had converted to Islam. I think there is no other parallel in medieval history except for the example of Hariharan and Bukka. Hariharan and Bukka, the founders of Vijayanagar Empire, had also converted to Islam under the pressure of Muhammad Tughlaq. But Swami Vidyaranya, the Shankaracharya of Sringeri Mutt, he reconverted them back to Hinduism with great difficulty. People were not accepting that at that time, which is almost 200 years before Shivaji. People were not accepting. So Swami Vidyaranya had to spin false stories that God said to me, and it is on God's direction that I am reconverting Hariharan and Bukka, the founders of Vijayanagar Empire, back to Hinduism. So how difficult it was to reconvert a person back to Hinduism once he had converted to another religion. But Shivaji set this great example. His second example was Netaji Palkar. Netaji Palkar was a great commander of Chhatrapati Shivaji. He was converted, he was captured by Aurangzeb and converted to Islam. And 10 years later, Chhatrapati Shivaji brought him back to Hinduism. So that was the vision of Shivaji. So Shivaji, I mean, his good governance has many angles. For example, he tried to purify the Marathi language from the influence of Persian. Now you see, purification of our vernacular languages is one of the foundations of our culture. If the language becomes affected by foreign influences, it is very difficult. It affects our cultural evolution. And he was the person who launched a project to erase Persian words from Marathi language, and therefore his Ashtapradhan Mandal, his 8-member ministry, the names were changed to Persian names. Peshwa was Prime Minister. Shivaji changed it to Pant Pradhan. Auditor was Mazumdar. His name that was changed to Amatya. Sarnopat was Commander. It was changed to Senapati. I think Nyadish had a different word. I don't remember. And he turned it into Nyadish. So Shivaji, if you look at it, is the inspiration for modern India in many ways. I have quoted a few examples, but there are many examples which show him as a great one of the greatest Indians of medieval India, and I would call him the greatest ruler of medieval India. The reason is, you see, Chanakya Niti under the influence of foreign rule, Chanakya Niti was almost dead at the time of in the medieval period. It was Shivaji who revived Chanakya Niti in this country in every way. Shivaji is the most powerful exponent of Chanakya Niti in medieval period. Chanakya Niti in Yuddha Niti, in battle. Chanakya Niti in administration, Chanakya Niti when it comes to tackling social issues. So, Shivaji, you have to re-evaluate Shivaji from a very different angle. Take the example of the way he killed Afzal Khan. Afzal Khan was a Bijapuri general who was given the task of killing Shivaji or capturing him alive, even by resorting to stratagem, even by resorting to falsehood. So when he left Bijapur, which was more than 200 kilometers away from Pune, in order to draw Shivaji into his orbit, he started plundering the temples. He looted the temple of his titular deity Tulsa Bhavani. Then he looted the temple of Khandoba, Lord Khandoba Martan Bhairav, who is the Kul Devta of my clan, Mahurkar. And so his idea was to provoke Shivaji into joining him in an open battle where he could be crushed. But Shivaji did almost the opposite. He was in Pune Valley when he learned that Aurangzeb had started plundering temples and is coming in the direction of Pune. He went into the hills in Mahabaleshwar, which is Pratapgarh. His people asked him, Maharaj, if you do this, then you will be seen as a coward. He said, I want exactly that. I want to be seen as a coward by Afzal Khan. So Afzal Khan started, when there was no opposition to Afzal Khan, he faltered in his strategy, and he started, chasing Shivaji. And Shivaji brought him to the hills near Mahabaleshwar. And there, suddenly he realized that now my artillery will be of no use against Shivaji because he is now on a hill, on a mountain. And therefore, he changed his strategy and he sent a very warm letter to Shivaji. Look here, your father and me were friends. We were working for the same master, which is the Bijapur Sultan. And therefore, you might have committed some mistakes. But you come under me, I will have you pardoned by the Sultan. Shivaji knew that if I fall into his trap, then he will not leave me, he will kill me. Therefore, a duel started between them where Shivaji would send his wakil to Afzal Khan. Afzal Khan was camping about 27 kilometers away from the fort of Pratapgarh, which was a plain. He was camping at a place called Vai, which is a plain, So there are Shivaji was trying to get him into the hills by telling him that, look here, I am your nephew. I am very scared of coming to meet you. You please come to me. You please pardon me. I've committed many mistakes. You hold my hand and take me to Bijapur. So this continued, and ultimately, because of his great diplomacy, he succeeded in trapping Afzal Khan. Afzal Khan was convinced that Shivaji is so scared of me that he will never try to kill me or harm me when I go to meet him. And he agreed to meet Shivaji at the foothill of Pratapgarh. And there is a plateau called Machi, halfway down the hill. A meeting was arranged at that place. The time was 4 o'clock in the evening. The date was 10th November 1659. Shivaji did not have food on that day because he wanted to remain light, because he knew that he might have to go into a physical duel with him when he meets him. He did not have food. Then he had managed to plant one spy called Vishwashara Nanaji in Aurangzeb's camp. Because Afzal Khan's camp. Afzal Khan also had many Maratha generals. So through them, he managed to send one of his spies into Afzal Khan's army. That spy sent him a message at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon that Afzal Khan is not wearing armor. उसने बख्तर नहीं पहना है. There Shivaji tells himself, this is my moment. The goddess is favoring me. And Shivaji goes there. There is a verbal duel between them. Shivaji is wearing a armor. So when Afzal Khan takes him into his embrace and assaults him with a dagger, the dagger is rendered harmless because of the armor. And Afzal Khan is so overconfident that he is not even wearing an armor. And Shivaji had won a Wagnak, what you call tiger claws. It looks like a ring here, and here it is in the shape of the tiger claw. And here he using a band, he had attached a crooked dagger on his left wrist. So when Afzal Khan tries to assault him with a dagger, Shivaji creates space between him and Afzal Khan. He attacks him with his tiger claws, and with his left hand. I don't know how did he do it. He pulls out his crooked dagger. He thrusts them in his bowels, and his entire intestine is out, and he's bleeding. And Shivaji runs away from there. Afzal Khan does assault him, but then by that time the whole game is over, and Afzal Khan is killed. I consider this incident as the greatest example of Chanakyaniti and Yuddhaniti of medieval India. You see, the Muslim rule started in India 267 years before this incident in 1659. If you take the starting of Muslim rule as 1192, I think 267 years had passed. 367 years had passed when this incident happened. And I think this is the most potent example of how Chanakyaniti can be practiced in a battle. So Shivaji is reviver of Chanakyaniti. He was the greatest builder of forts. There was no greater builder of forts in the medieval period. He was the reviver of Indian Navy. After the downfall of Chola Empire, there was nothing like Indian Navy. Maybe a few rulers had a few vessels, It was Shivaji organized navy into a proper navy where there were ships for fighting a naval war. There were ships for transporting, and as early as 1660, he had started exporting material to as far as Saudi Arabia. So he had started using navy for mercantile purpose as early as 1660, when he was not such a great ruler. And how historians have seen him. There was a French traveler called Barthélemy Caire. He was the greatest admirer of Shivaji of that period. He had come to India twice from France, and in his memoirs, the kind of tribute he has paid to Shivaji, we are surprised how we have failed to evaluate our hero properly, whereas a foreigner has been able to evaluate him properly, So what he writes, he says that Shivaji was the greatest ruler of the East that East has ever produced. East, in terms of the entire world. He is the greatest ruler that East has ever produced. Then he writes that Shivaji is comparable to a great medieval hero of Europe called Gustavus Adolphus. He was the king of Sweden. And he writes that Shivaji is, in his rapidity of conquest, in his other great qualities, he does not ill resemble the great European hero and Swedish king, Gustavus Adolphus. And furthermore, what he writes, he says, when I ran into the Shivaji's commander at the port of Chaul in Konkan in 1662, what Shivaji's commander told Caire, that is what Caire has noted. He says that there is no other king like ours. His ambition is boundless. His vision is boundless. He thinks of uniting the nation, Hindu nation, from Sindh to Bengal. These are the words Shivaji used, from Sindh to Bengal. And he says that our king works more than a common soldier. He is a great politician. Nobody can beat him in diplomacy. These are the words used by Care for Chhatrapati Shivaji based on his talk with Shivaji's commander, naval commander at the port of Tol in Konkan. So Chhatrapati Shivaji I regard him as the greatest ruler of 1000 years in terms of his achievements, in terms of what he has given to this country, in terms of its vision. I think the modern Indian state owes a lot to Chhatrapati Shivaji without knowing that it has drawn from many achievements, many experiments of Chhatrapati Shivaji. So that is all I would like to share. Please, I am open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So interestingly, with your expertise, you have connected the dots between ancient history to medieval history to modern India through the vision of Emperor Shivaji, using data and examples from modern Indian state and vision for good governance, religious policies, tax system, practices such as seed loans and loans for cattle, monetary systems, and how the governance was delivered direct to the public, which we are looking for today. So thank you so much. And we are starting with the question session here. The students have typed their questions in the chat box, and I'm reading those questions for you, sir. Here is the first question from Varun of ADPR department. He asks, despite Chhatrapati being such an inclusive emperor to whom religion was no bar, why do political parties use his name for the sake of politics of extremism and to influence people in a wrong manner? What is your take on that?
No, I agree with Varun that Shivaji's contribution is not being evaluated precisely and properly because the political overtones which come into play when one talks about Chhatrapati. The leftist-oriented historians want to see him in some way. The other people, the rightist people also want to see him a proper way. I think the best way is to go into his achievements and draw proper lessons for this nation.
Okay, thank you, sir. There is another question from Digital Media Department, New Delhi campus. Here is the question. Shivaji guided people into social harmony, respecting different castes and religions. What are some of his actions which current governments or social classes can emulate to do as well?
Can you repeat again? I am not able to hear you properly. There is some problem.
Yes, sir. The question is, Shivaji guided people into social harmony, respecting different castes and religions. What are the actions, if you could highlight some of the actions which the current governments or people could imbibe to do the same thing?
No. The current government's biggest achievement is its serious attempt to sweep aside the middleman. That is what Shivaji did, as I told you in my talk. That the biggest achievement of this government is, establishing direct connect with the people. So middleman has been a problem since medieval ages. Correct. So I think that is the greatest contribution of this government, and which in one sense it is drawing from Shivaji's example also.
Very well said, sir. So there's one.
And another thing, the great vision this government has for the nation. Shivaji had that vision. I told you in 1662. Shivaji's commander tells Care that our king's vision is boundless. His ambition is boundless. He thinks of a Hindu nation from Sindh to Bengal. So that was his vision. And I think this government is in every way on the same path, whether it is diplomacy, whether it is welfare of the people, whether it is advancement in terms of science, whether whether it is in terms of social reform. This government has also done social reform through its measures, through its good governance.
Thank you, Mahurkarji. The other question, though it is a kind of repetition, I would say, because your whole lecture was focusing on the same thing, but still, since the student has asked, I think we should take this question up. The question is, how can we make these icons and leaders from India's past relevant today in a fruitful way? So what are the ways where we can include the leader's vision in a relevant way today in the contemporary times? So this is the question.
Unfortunately, Gandhiji's death, the way he was killed, was a great calamity for the nation in many ways. One was, gave an opportunity to those who did not believe in India's core culture, or who did not fully believe in India's core culture. They got an opportunity to thrust their ideology on the nation. And therefore, it affected India in many ways. Historiography. The kind of evolution I have done of Shivaji, we could have done it 50, 60 years ago. But historiography got affected by a leftist thought, which took full advantage of Gandhiji's murder, So for 60 years, we were taught a certain lesson in history in every way. So the idea was to magnify those who did not deserve so much. Those were basically foreign invaders, correct? And to dwarf the role of your true heroes. So this continued for almost 50, 60 years. So it is only now. So I call this period as a period of national reawakening, Rashtriya Purna Jagran. You see, Swami Vivekanand, Maharishi Aurobindo, Dayanand Saraswati, my Guru Swami Prabhupada of Bharat Seva Ashram Sangh, such saints had kept the ground ready for us after independence. But Gandhiji's death came in the way. His unfortunate killing was exploited by leftist forces, by forces which did not fully or completely believe in India's core culture. There were some people who were out to subvert India's core culture. Such people came into power and they started thrusting their vision on the country. So this is an age of national reawakening, not just Chhatrapati Shivaji. I am telling you, you see, in this book which I am writing, I am very conscious that I cannot dwarf the role of other rulers in order to project Shivaji as a great man. Correct? So my first chapter would be pre-Shivaji Hindustan. Correct? So when I started, I have great pride that I have imbibed history very well. But then that pride when I read some of the chapters, I was surprised. There is one ruler called Kapilendra Gajpati in Odisha. He was there in the, I think in the 14th century. Correct? This ruler from Odisha, he invaded Jaunpur near Varanasi. See the distance. On his northwest, he came right up to Dhar, over 1,000 kilometers. On his right also, he went beyond Kolkata, which is again about 800 to 900 kilometers. On his north-south, he defeated Bahmani kingdom, Bahmani rulers. Now, we don't know the name of Kapilendra Gajpati. In Odisha, he is a great man, but we don't know his name. And he was an emperor when he died. He was not a king. we call him a king. Before that, Chola dynasty was there. Ganga dynasty in Odisha. Ganga dynasty was the one which Kapilendra defeated and started his rule, Even Ganga dynasty had, I think, couple of rulers who could be called emperors. So we know about Chola, of course, but there are many great figures about whom we do not know. And they can inspire the nation. I am of the opinion that in every state, we should select 2 or 3 great heroes, and they should be brought into the NCERT text. Every state, we should identify 2 great people of medieval era, and they should be highlighted. That's how we will bring national integration. Like I am a Maharashtrian, brought up in Gujarat, but my ancestor had fought in the Battle of Panipat against Tipu Sultan. Thereafter, his sons joined Mahaji Scindia. They came to Gwalior. From Gwalior, after independence, we went to Baroda, another Maratha state. Correct? But, I felt so nice reading about Kapilendra. I instantly connect that here was a great man about which I do not know. So when we treat history like that, it will strengthen national integration.
True, sir. Certainly, the history should be the source of light coming from everywhere. And we are delighted to know that now the stories, rather than history, we are getting our stories from all over. So this is something positive we are hearing today. So there is another question from Hindi department, sir. यहाँ ये पूछते हैं धन कनाल से क्वेश्चन है विश्वजीत का ये पूछते हैं शिवाजी की सेना में किसान भी शामिल थे किसानों को सेना में भागीदारी देने के पीछे क्या उद्देश्य रहा और उनको कैसे प्रशिक्षित किया गया
मैंने पहले भी कहा कि वो तो सभी जाति के लोग उसमें थे तो किसान तो थे एवरी सोल्जर इज ए किसान ऑल्सो Let us be very clear. Every soldier at that time was a kisan also. Shivaji's system was that his armies used to leave for the battle season soon after Dasera, and they used to come back before monsoon for sowing operations. A soldier used to leave after Dasera on a military expedition, correct? And before the onset of monsoon, he used to be back so that he could cultivate his lands properly. You get my point? So, his original question, every soldier was a kisan also. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for clarification. There's another question from Aman Jaiswal, Digital Media, New Delhi. Shivaji used to reign in a limited sphere of Indian geography, but how can the government utilize and implement his way of governance across nations? Following minimum government...
Can you repeat again? I am not able to hear you. Can you repeat again?
Yes, sir. So he is asking about the global perspective, that how we can utilize his vision for global governance today, following minimum government, maximum governance is in today's era.
No. As I told you, Shivaji's good governance. I spoke about a few examples, but then there are n number of examples of Shivaji's good governance. I told you that he was that ruler who used to fix taxation for the farmers based on the rainfall of that year. This is a great reform. I don't think we have it even today, So if you go into Shivaji, he was a far-sighted ruler. He was not opposed to reform, genuine reform. And you see, for example, one thing which I find lacking today in people. You see, of course, when there is a Pulwama happening, when there is a China kind of situation happening, people do come onto the streets to cheer our soldiers. But otherwise, I think that we tend to measure even bravery in terms of profit and loss. You see, the place which a hero should have, a brave war hero, I think we should do more to recognize him. I will give you an example of Shivaji. This is my favorite example. I share it in all my talks on Shivaji. You see, he had a general called Pratap Rao Gujar. Pratap Rao Gujar. Correct? Great general. Now, Shivaji got news in 73 April, 1673 April, that in one battle, Pratap Rao is allowed a very vicious Bijapuri general called Behlol Khan to escape from his snare. It was said that Behlol Khan, when he was hemmed in from all sides by Maratha army, he sent a message to Pratap Rao, look here, I have a secret understanding with Shivaji, which Shivaji used to have in those times with many people. He being a great Chanakya, he used to have that understanding. So, taking advantage of that, he told Pratap Rao that, look here, I have a secret understanding with Behlol Khan, and you please allow me to go. And he allowed him to escape from that. He was almost encircled. There is a place called Umrani in Maharashtra, where this battle happened, and where Pratap Rao allowed him to go. When Shivaji learned about this after 15 days from his spy, when Shivaji learned this, can you hear me? When Shivaji learned this from his spy after 15 days, the Pratap Rao Gujar had allowed his biggest enemy, Behlol Khan, to slip away. He got livid with Pratap Rao. He sent him an angry letter. Thereafter, Behlol Khan started attacking Maratha territory immediately. So that was even more this for Shivaji. Shivaji sent him a letter. Pratap Rao, you either defeat or capture Behlol Khan, or else don't show me your face. Pratap Rao was a very brave general, and he was shocked by this letter in the pursuit of Behlol Khan, and he found him out about 8 months later at a place called Nesri near Kolhapur. And there, throwing generalship to winds, when his army was still getting into battle gear, he and 6 other lieutenants, they went for an attack Behlol Khan. And all 6 were cut down, including Pratap Rao. When Shivaji got this news a few days later, he was in Raigad at that time. He cried in the open court. He said, my angry letter has cost me my greatest general. And it is the greatest mistake I have committed in my life. And can you imagine, after 6 months later, Shivaji got Pratap Rao's daughter Janki Bai married to his own son, second son. That was the level of his appreciation for bravery. That was his level of gratefulness for people who are brave, who are patriotic.
Yes, sir. So this was quite an inspiring instance you shared with us. यहाँ जो दूसरा सवाल है वो उसका उत्तर लगभग आप दे ही चुके हैं, फिर भी मैं सवाल रखूंगी सर। जितेंद्र पति हैं, ये पूछ रहे हैं शिवाजी और मानस रंजन IIMC ढेंकनाल से पूछ रहे हैं, छत्रपति शिवाजी इतने शक्तिशाली और राजनीतिज्ञ थे, फिर अपने विरोधी से संधि क्यों किया करते थे? और इनका दूसरा सवाल है कि शिवाजी के नाम छत्रपति क्यों रखा गया?
रिपीट करिए, मैं सुन नहीं पाया बराबर।
सर, इनका सवाल यही है कि छत्रपति शिवाजी इतने शक्तिशाली और इतने बड़े राजनीतिज्ञ थे, फिर भी अपने विरोधी से संधि क्यों किया करते थे?
ये तो गलत प्रश्न है, आपका प्रश्न ही गलत है। उनकी सभी संधि चाणक्य नीति के भागरूप है। गलत आप सोच रहे हो, आपका इंटरप्रिटेशन को गलत है छत्रपति शिवाजी का जनाब। छत्रपति शिवाजी की चाणक्य नीति तो ऐसी है कि आपको सोच नहीं सकते आप। छत्रपति शिवाजी ने अपने जीवन काल के दौरान औरंगजेब के साथ वो कम से कम औरंगजेब को उन्होंने 5 माफी पत्र लिखे अपने 36 साल के कार्यकाल में। 5 माफी पत्र लिखे, उसमें से 3 माफी पत्रों के बाद में शिवाजी और औरंगजेब की संधि हुई, मतलब मराठा और मुगलों की। और हर एक संधि को शिवाजी ने ही तोड़ा, क्योंकि उनको जब लगता था, उन्हें उद्देश्य रखा था अपना हिंदवी स्वराज्य, इंडिपेंडेंट हिंदू किंगडम, हिंदू एम्पायर, ये इनका मेन उद्देश्य था। तो वो पूरी पॉलिसी, पूरी नीति उस हिसाब से चलाते थे, युद्ध नीति अपनी, उनकी जो डिप्लोमेसी है। जब उनको लगता था कि बीजापुर सल्तनत, मुगल सल्तनत और गोलकोंडा सल्तनत तीनों एक हो रहे हैं मेरे सामने, तो कोई एक के साथ संधि कर डालते थे ताकि 3 को एक ना होने दें। उन्होंने तो बीजापुर सल्तनत के अंदर 2 भाग थे मुसलमान सरदारों के अंदर जो सेनापति थे। एक था इंडियन मुस्लिम्स जो हिंदुओं में से कन्वर्ट हुए थे, और दूसरे थे पठान। तो पठान लोगों की काफी एलर्जी थी लोकल मुस्लिम्स को, इंडियन मुस्लिम्स को जिसको बोलते हैं। तो शिवाजी ने वहां पे भी दरार पैदा कर दी। वहां पे उन्होंने जो इंडियन मुस्लिम्स उनको कहा कि मैं तुम्हारे साथ में हूं, इन पठानों को निकालना है। क्योंकि पठान से कोई इनका खास झगड़ा नहीं था, पर वो दरार पैदा करते थे। तो शिवाजी की हर एक जो उनकी जो माफी पत्र था उनका, वो एक बहुत बड़ी चाणक्य नीति का भाग था। और उसको देखो ना आप, लास्ट में ही वाज द विनर। छत्रपति शिवाजी जब उन्होंने अपना कार्यकाल शुरू किया, वो तो कुछ गांव के जागीरदार थे। अब मैं उनको एम्परर कह रहा हूं। जब उनका देहांत हुआ, जब वो एम्परर बन चुके थे, तो वो कैसा हुआ? वो इसलिए हुआ कि उनकी युद्ध नीति, उनकी ब्रेवरी, उनकी चाणक्य नीति, उसने एक ऐसा जबरदस्त कॉन्कॉक्शन पैदा किया उनके लिए कि उसने उनको सफलता दिलवाई।
Thank you, sir. We have been discussing, and you had made the reference to the Chanakya Niti again and again while discussing the statecraft, diplomacy of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and the Emperor Shivaji, as you called him. And we are looking forward for the book to read into and to know more about Shivaji here. So thank you so much for that, sir. Now I would request Ms. Bhavna Acharya, Assistant Professor, IMC Dhenkanal Campus, to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, ma'am. First, a very good afternoon to esteemed dignitaries, respected faculty members, and all the students of IMC from across all the regional centers as well as from Delhi. First, I would like to extend my gratitude to Director General Trivedi sir for the inception of Friday Dialogue, which has helped the students immensely with a discussion on a host of topics over time. I also want to extend my thanks to the head of outreach activities, Dr. Pramod Kumarji, for his efforts towards anchoring the event. Thanks to Dr. Rachna Sharma ma'am and Dr. Sangeeta Pranamendra ma'am for moderating the session and introducing the eminent speaker. And last but not the least, I am immensely grateful to Shri Uday Maharkarji, Information Commissioner, Government of India, for truly dissecting the tenets of good governance through Chhatrapati Shivaji's vantage point. We have learned immensely through your talk, sir. Thank you so much.
One more thing I would like to share with you.
Yes, sir.
That you see, I am an author and a historian first, and then the Central Information Commissioner. I would like to be known as an author, as a historian, more than a Central Information Commissioner. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, sir. Excuse me for that then. I should have introduced you that way. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll catch up.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you so much for thank you for joining us for this session, and we all look forward to meet again on next Friday. Thank you so much.